welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This episode 374, Fast 10, Lap 14. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode's brought to you by Cult. Discover the Cult world. The Cult collection creates stylistic synergy since 1987. Check them out for all your boots and footwear needs. That's cultofficial.com.
I'm surprised that there's no Cult X, but shout out to cult.com, and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. With us tonight, as all lap long, Walt, Hickey, and Kim Bhasin. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back.
What is up?
What's going on?
With us also tonight, very special occasion, the once a lap Fast and Furious guest back with us for his penultimate Fast and Furious movie, and we have some information we were just sharing off microphone or off recording before. The host of High School Summer Party, Mr. Brian Rodriguez. Hello, Brian.
Finally, I'm back on. It's been
like
crazy.
A month ago, man.
I am the redheaded stepchild of the regular feed of this podcast. That's
mean?
True. You put me behind
you make
the
us
paywall.
Watch porno movies all the time.
It's not all porn.
It's your choice.
No, first of all, only one I would say Caligula, but that's also a mainstream film at the time. I never made you watch porn.
What we found out a couple months ago, or a month or two ago, is you somehow did Furious 7 twice on the show, and no one noticed. We didn't notice, you didn't notice, the listeners didn't notice. So you could have been done by now, but alas, Furious 7 twice.
It's just proof that I'm not on enough, right? Like, if that was an episode that was, fresh in people's minds, it would make a little bit more sense. But
the only episodes of yours that I remember are you on Tokyo Joe because we did the 3-episode crossover, and you on Fast 5 because you were embarrassing Kyle about the All Pairs.
All Pairs. I remember that one.
Every other thing you've said on this entire podcast, I do not remember. It's in one ear, not the other.
Just proof, listeners out there, how I get treated on this podcast. If you like listening to the sound of my voice, please hit these guys up. The fifth person who recommends me as permanent guest host to this podcast, Joey and Joe, will sign a
copy of Too Fast, Too Furious.
HD DVD copy of the original Fast and Furious film.
HD DVD copy.
Okay, I want to know. So I think we did not talk about, in terms of the train facts, the most important thing of business. I think I would like to get one more on the tune-up, and we do that in a few weeks. But. Yeah. Can you please hit us with, I guess, now our penultimate train fact? There's one more to come after this. Okay, also, for the record, the first two movies are available on HD DVD. You can buy them both on eBay for a total of $14, which I might do. I don't have an HD DVD player, but
it's kind of sick to have them.
Yeah.
You guys act like you cover this material wall to wall, and you haven't seen it on HD DVD?
I don't even have the player.
Wow.
I know.
You got to get the player, got to watch it, notice the differences. Supposedly it's better than Blu-ray. That's what I've heard, but I don't know for a fact.
Well, porn shows...
Yeah, porn disagrees.
Porn shows Blu-ray.
Sorry.
All right, Walt, Kim, can you please hit us with one train fact?
The train is blue.
The train is blue.
It's blue and marigold.
Blowing our spot for next week.
We're just going to say marigold?
Yeah, it's marigold.
It is blue. It's blue marigold.
It's blue marigold.
Uh-huh.
It's like a blue, but then the accent color is marigold.
Dude, I mean, come on.
It is fetching.
Okay.
Important update.
We
laugh. Is also on HD DVD.
We laugh because when we would have Joey describe cars to us and guess them, like one of the first things he ever did was start using the colors.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, yeah, that fucking helps. Thanks. Cool.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes
you never said fetching?
No, never fetching though. No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome back to the show, guys. We are here in the interim where it's been years since this movie came out, maybe years since we get another one. We are in the limbo of maybe everyone we know and love dying a grisly death. When this movie ends, either in the theater or this most recent time, Walt, Kim, what do you guys think of where we where we stop? Mid-action sequence, mid-action sequence, mid-action sequence, post-credit sequence, post-credit sequence.
I think it's amazing. I think it's like, honestly, it takes like a lot of, you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself to do that. And whether earned or not, I think that they have a lot of confidence in themselves to do that.
Do they, or does Vin?
Like in theaters, I remember being like absolutely enthralled with the opening scene of this movie. Like the first shots, the moment I saw the first shots of the movie and it made obvious the direction where this was going to begin with, I was like, yep, Yep, all the way in. We're all the way in. So whatever happens here is going to happen, and I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but by the end, that cliffhanger, to Walt's point, the confidence is in it of itself worthy of so much respect that we,
like the instincts to end it there are the instincts that this franchise needs to be following all the time. Like that's kind of what I think about that.
If the if the line is set at 0.5, how many deaths are we going to see based on the end peril? Are you taking the over, or are you taking the under? Because we have a plane full of 4, theoretically crashing and exploding. We've got Dom and Baby B.
Are pilots not people to you, just out of curiosity? Is that...
We don't know if Ramsey's driving it with her cell phone or something.
There's a lot of precedent for that, isn't there?
Yes.
There is. So do you think, of all the people we see who might be dead at the end of this movie, if the line is set at 0.5, you're taking the over-under on deaths?
0. No,
under, yeah.
-1. They're going to bring back someone.
Yeah. Let's go.
Well, Giselle's back at the end.
They're bringing someone back.
That's a good point.
Brian, what do you think? Do you think anybody here is going to die at the end?
No.
The other follow-up question here, Reaction Rocket, our listener, wanted to know, will the next movie pick up immediately, or will there be a time jump?
Immediately.
I think it would have picked up immediately if they were able to make it immediately, but now I think there'll be a time jump.
With the new financial reports that they're like cutting back and going more old school, you think that is the cause of them not starting immediately?
I think they're going to do a time jump backwards because they're going to show what was happening in the 5 minutes before in the plane, and show you that the explosion wasn't the plane. It was a bomb a missile or some shit that they sent forward, and then the plane's going to do a flip, and it's like you're all wrong. Forward, immediate arrest, none of those things.
How many times have they done the immediate? This is what's happening in the next movie.
4 into 5.
4 to 5.
4 to 5 for sure. Yeah.
Which also is the best one. Like that's also a really good transition between films.
He gets broken out of the bus. Right?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that's also the most successful. It launches you into the next phase of the franchise.
As a reminder to the patrons, because this will be out on the main feed after the event happens, but we're watching the Randy cut, the chronological cut of all the movies, and that's one of the things I'm most excited for, to see how Randy cuts 4 into 5. He said it's seamless, because it's just it's literally the same scene. Yeah, I don't think none of the other ones go, because they're all just all over the place a little bit.
And I think the first 5 minutes of any Fast and Furious movie are the least effective ones usually, because it's usually just character resetting that we already know. Whereas, I mean, finally, Dom Toretto, modern day Superman. How do you need to set this guy up?
So here's the question: does Rocky do it better? Because the first 25 minutes of every Rocky movie is just the previous Rocky movie's final fight.
and coincidentally, sometimes that's also the last 20 minutes of a Rocky film.
Mm-hmm.
Recapping,
especially if you're Rocky Balboa.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right, let's kick things off with the most 80s moment. This is the last 80s moment you guys are going to pick this entire lap. I have a couple that are pretty 80s to me, but let's start with Kim. Kim, if you had to pick the most 80s thing about this movie, what are you picking?
Let me get this out the way first. The most 90s thing about this movie is the phrase "none your business."
Not the internet cafe.
No,
that's 2000s.
None your
that's
business,
yeah.
right? But for 80s, I'm gonna go turncoat spy.
Ooh,
Games. Extreme 80s trope in virtually any 80s movie with a spy in it. One of them is a turncoat.
True. Good point.
Walt,
what's your pick?
I gotta tell you, this movie wasn't really wearing a lot of its 80s.
True.
It's not.
The only one that I kind of had was the Vatican being a desirable or interesting place to try to save. I think that a lot of the things that went down in the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s that we learned about what was happening in the 60s, 70s, and 80s no longer made that the case.
The art, at least. We have to try to save the art. But
sure, we got to save the art. Noted patron of the arts, Dom Toretto.
Brian, what about you? Most 80s moment in this movie?
I have no idea. I felt 0 80s while watching this film, but now I'm sort of picturing a Fast and Furious art heist film. And
I would like that. I would like that.
But yeah, this film did not feel very 80s. I'm sorry.
It's a child of its era.
I think that in the scene where Roman has the jacket full of money and he's like, this isn't Spanx, this is Banks, that office everything about that office is 80s. It was just like,
okay.
Oh yeah,
like that whole interior of everything. It was like orange and brown and old office-y shits, and that was the most 80s I got.
It's my pick. It's not a vintage one, but Cypher's driving a DeLorean in this movie.
That makes
which
sense.
is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Pretty
Fair.
80s. But the most
Duh.
80s thing to me is just Jacob's car, and more specifically Jacob's mixtapes. Like having cassette tapes in a car to propel your drive. Pretty 80s.
Cassette tapes in a car. Yeah, in the dash. Yep. There you go.
Also, one thing I noticed about this movie is that Mia calls him Jakey. Jakey. At least that's how the... when they have like a tearful goodbye, she says, "Bye, Jakey." And I was like, okay.
I think another 80s thing about this movie potentially is being a little bit too fucked up for its rating. Like, this is a PG-13 movie, and like there's some, like, Jason Momoa does some strange things to several dead gentlemen that I think would ordinarily...
What do you guys think of that scene? That scene is crazy.
I think that scene's... I think I went into this being like, oh yeah, I remember that Jason Momoa performance being a little bit too big. And I really loved everything about Jason Momoa's performance in this movie. I think it's like really perfect. I think it's scenery chewing. I think he does a magnificent job. I don't think that he's too big at all. I think that he's like great in this. I think that scene was a bit much, but in the same way that like Temple of Doom is a bit much, where like, yeah, I wouldn't have gone that far, but it really does kind of set the tone.
Maybe it's because it's like top of mind right now, but like the Deadpooliness was pretty.
Yes.
It was all.
Yeah. And like, I don't think it's like terrible. I can tell why people were shocked, because I don't think that this franchise has had that kind of tonal shift as abruptly as that. But I do think that, I don't know, I think Momoa did a great job in this movie.
I love Momoa in this movie. Every time I watch it, I'm like, yeah, he kills it.
But that scene, though, I remember, Joe and Brian, you guys might remember, when we were leaving the theater after seeing this, we're all like, oh, that's good. Like, we're talking about our favorite scenes. Like, we're like halfway through the mall leaving. We're like, what about that scene where he's like posing with the dead bodies? We're like, oh, right. Like, that was like a one we're just like, did we all see that? Do you think, I mean, I guess he has to, and I don't want to like jump to the head because I feel like this is maybe more a thing for the end, but like, does Dante come back? Does Momoa come back? It feels like he kind of has to, but also like they haven't really followed Cypher up in a way to like make her like a really follow-up villain. Like, did he burn too bright to be used again? Or do you think he's going to come back for the future of the franchise, for the end of the franchise?
I think he's a big enough name. Like, for the end of this kind of franchise, you do need to have like bit of the, like, you need to have baddies kind of like consolidation of evil, right? It can't just be like, you've been fighting a lot of like, they've had a lot of like pretty good antagonists lately, and like in order to kind of make it count, I don't think that you want to take them off the board, particularly if Fast 11's gonna be the final one. So I think that he's like definitely a B villain at the very least.
I mean, it's obviously whoever's running Eteon, right? Like
who's your pick from this movie, by the way?
Can I continue to just say it's Johnny Tran? Like, what's the
Yeah.
Still Johnny Tran. Still. Now, to this day. From this movie, I would this is tough. Everyone's too obvious in this one. Like the bad guys are hackers and things like that. Johnny Tran.
Could Dante come back? And in most franchises, no. But could Dante come back as a good guy? Is it possible?
Like everyone else?
Could he be redeemed?
He killed, what they say, like 9 people in Rome?
I don't know, man. I think that's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
That would be one of their
Who's
hardest.
truly
pull-offs.
redeemable, Walt?
Yeah.
What if there's a time jump and you just get Dante back and he's like, wow, guys, that was silly. Sorry, I got so crazy. And it's just like, that's what it, and it's like, yeah, like, let's go fight them. And like, he's just with them now.
It feels like, I as a person who's been a connoisseur of some Batman in his time, this feels very much like the best scenario for this is like, inpatient treatment, right? Like the Joker is not going to be rehabilitated in Batman's best friend. He's going to get the care that he needs at Arkham minimum security prison.
Fair.
But then I could just see that's how it starts, right? And then like he gives him a tip to find the next big bad guy, and then we learn that he was doing it really all for his daughter who has cancer, and he was looking for the serum to save her. And then we're like, oh, okay, that's why he killed. And then suddenly he's on the team. 5 movies later, he's just sort of a background character as they go into space and again. And that's how this franchise rocks, though. Like, so they just like they're big, and they float into the background a bit, and they're part of the ensemble.
It would work. I can see it.
Has any other character been like outright executed in the way that this guy's dad was by Dwayne?
Do you mean like in film ever? Because I do think that it is kind of how that happens.
On the topic of like heel turns or like bad guys becoming good guys, or I guess like face turns, would you say is Cypher a good guy in this, or is she not? Like, or is she still like in chaotic neutral?
I think she's a good guy now.
I think she's a good guy by the end. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I agree. I think we're seeing the face turn in this movie. That's sort of what I thought about, right? Like, again, a lot of the bads here become, not a lot, but there are some who become good. Again, literally, I don't know how, I don't understand the Han thing, but, you know, like, Han was murdered by someone who's theoretically, a part of this team now, right? Like,
I would say that I think that this franchise makes a very interesting distinction between, like, I think that this movie, these franchises is very interested in like labor, right? Like, I think that all the people who have flipped from one way to another were set up as kingpins within their own movies, but then were revealed in subsequent films to be just workers, right? They're independent contractors working on behalf of Eteon. They're not true believers, right? Like, one reason that Idris would not have flipped, right, and would not have gone is that he was basically a big company man, right? He was in charge of a lot of the operation, you know, an executive within Eteon and that kind of thing. And as a result, he would not have abandoned his principles because his principles were the advancement of that. Whereas everyone else in that film, Hobbs and Shaw, is like in it for the upgrades, right? Like, they are an employee who's trying to get upgrades and things like that. And I think that like what these movies pull off is that every time that they turn an enemy into a friend, it's because they pull back the camera and they realize that, oh, this person was a rival. Oh, this person was employed by a company that wants me destroyed, but they kind of realize the error of their ways. And now all of a sudden the Shaws are on our side, right? And like, it is that kind of honor among thieves thing where obviously thieves will brush up against other thieves at a certain point. But if you back out and you kind of realize what you're in it for, you know, the thing with like Cypher is like, you know, they kind of, you know, they wiped out her team very early in this film. And I think that what they have to figure out is just like, okay, like, what is she here for, right? Like, is she like a significant power within Eteon, or is she just working for him as well, right?
Does whatever that answer be make up for the fact that she still murdered Dom's baby mama?
I think that people don't stay dead in these movies long enough to figure that out.
Did she?
Well, actually, you know, just speaking of execution style, she was executed. Elena was executed. I mean, we didn't see it, but she was. Point blank gunshot.
Right. By Tormund.
Go back to the theory, though. If we don't see it with our eyes, Dom doesn't see it, they're not dead.
Wait, have we told you there's a theory? I don't remember whose theory this was. Maybe it was Chrissy Shackelford's, that every death in the franchise, if Dom does not see it, it does not happen.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a classic comic book rule. Like,
but he saw that one.
He did see that one.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't see it.
We didn't see it.
And as the protagonist of reality, I don't know if that's true. So,
there's also this is not my wrestling moment of this film, but there is a wrestling trope here of the bad guy like pretending to face turn, and then, you know, suddenly low blow. Oh no, okay, never mind. Still bad. Turns out still bad.
Easy. Yeah, I like that. The idea that like they realize that they will adopt any puppy that gives them good like dewy eyes, and then immediately using that against them.
Yeah.
Finally, someone figures that out.
Yeah, the gullible good guys, right? Maybe Michelle Rodriguez, maybe Letty is eventually like, oh yeah, well, it turns out she is my friend. Oh no, low blow.
Yeah, I don't know who the actor is, but Bargain Bin Pat McAfee, I think, was really good in this movie.
I've never heard him described like that, but it's so dead on.
Wait, who's so Bargain Bin Pat McAfee?
You know exactly who I'm talking about.
The blonde guy, Dante,
the one who takes over Mr. Nobody's organization, and then shoots him with a rocket launcher.
Ames,
yeah.
Yeah, that's Jack Reacher.
Sure,
it is definitely Jack Reacher.
Okay, well, he put on a little bit of muscle since then.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good comparison. I was just thinking sleeveless, like all I could picture was sleeveless and not like the rest of his body. I'm like, I remember everybody in this movie but Dom wearing sleeves. Joe, does Pat McAfee love these movies?
They do like Fast and the Furious. Well, I don't think he can't watch movies because he has ADHD real bad. So he's watched like 6 movies in like the past like 20 years, and like, but they love them. Like when a new Fast and the Furious comes out, like the show goes nuts.
But like as Kim proved, this is some of our finest shirt or sleeveless entertainment.
100%. I absolutely agree. And they like tell him stuff like this, but usually he's just like, yeah, I don't know. I tried to put it on and then I fell asleep or something.
Can I go off camera quickly to watch the clip where he talks about this film and then report back to you?
Sure.
All right, I'll be back.
Kim, you teased it before. What is your most wrestling moment of the movie?
So I wanted to make it really, really, really simple and tactile for this one. Okay. It is the attitude adjustment, which is John Cena's wrestling finishing maneuver, which he uses in this film in the house, in the Toretto house fight against the goons, where he saves everybody.
He uses his finisher. I didn't catch that because I don't.
He does his wrestling, his real wrestling finisher,
his real wrestling,
his real wrestling, finisher, and he puts him on his shoulders. He flips him up and over his head and through the floor, I suppose, and on down to the floor beneath them. And so here's the thing: wrestlers typically don't like to do their actual wrestling moves in film, and I think that's because they're trying to like separate themselves from their characters.
Sure,
like they want
sense.
their acting persona.
They're deeply ashamed of everything that they've done in the past.
So like, if you watch, have you seen Doom? It's one of the first Dwayne the Rock.
I have not. I have been scared to watch that.
He's still the Rock at that point.
It's okay, just the Rock. So that's not the first, because that's probably Scorpion King.
It is Scorpion King.
Yeah.
So but run down, and then like 2 or 3 later, it's Doom.
Doom, there's a big final fight where he fights the bad guy, or the good guy. He's the bad guy, and the Rock performs his patented finishing maneuver, the rock bottom, and you very rarely see it ever again in film, because he's not the Rock anymore. He's Dwayne Johnson. Batista, I don't think I've ever seen the Batista bomb, which is his finisher in all the Batista films.
Not. So it's less of a trademark thing and more of like a separation of church and state. Like that's the persona over here and I'm over here or something.
Every time I see one of these in a movie, I'm like a little bit surprised. Roman Reigns does it in Hobbs and Shaw. He does his spear in Hobbs and Shaw.
Roman Reigns isn't an actor
because he's still Roman Reigns. And is he?
Can I fact check this?
100%.
I'm like your producer
he's
today.
Still Roman Reigns, yeah. But like whenever you see one of these moves in a movie, like it's a notable thing, I think. Mm-hmm. So AA. It used to be called the FU, by the way, but now it's the attitude adjustment.
I see.
Okay.
Screen Rant article: the 7 times Dwayne the Rock Johnson used real wrestling moves in movies and TV. Let's run through it.
Well, Screen Rant, the finest of AI-generated content out there. Let's go for it.
Rock bottom in Star Trek Voyager. Did not know that happened.
That can't be. Anyway.
Doomsday device in Fast and Furious 6.
Okay.
What does that mean? Oh.
Doomsday device is... Oh my God, why do I know
guys.
You put someone on your shoulders and someone else then...
Clothesline
you guys
Legion of Doom move.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I remember this one. He did the rock bottom in the rundown.
Yeah.
But that's also
still
second
early enough. Yeah.
Semi rock bottom in Walking Tall. Apparently, I don't remember that one.
Still early,
very early.
Rock.
I do remember this one. He does a spine buster in Hobbs and Shaw.
That's excellent.
Rock bottom in Furious 7.
It's in the Statham fight.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Okay. And the number one is bullshit, of course. It's just they count the people's eyebrow in various films. It's not really a
hey, Screen Rant, fuck that.
I have a Google alert set up for the Fast and Furious, and I get one every night at like 10 o'clock at night or whatever. 4 out of 7 days a week or more. The top article now is a Screen Rant. It's just like, these 7 characters must return to the franchise. It's like, okay. Like they're just like generating... slop.
Wow. Oh, quickly on the McAfee thing, all the clips do not involve Pat McAfee actually in them when Fast and Furious comes up. It's just like the boys.
I said, yeah, they get all hyped for it, but it's not.
Yeah, and it's honestly like a waste of time watching them. No offense to them, but they're just like one of them was like, "Oh, when did the franchise go too far?" And literally everyone there is like, "I've seen 2 and 5," and one guy's like, "I've seen, I think one of them." Right? Like
Yeah.
this is higher level Discord than that.
Walt, what is your most D&D moment of the movie?
We're still in very much like a D&D like phase, like because again, like these later things are very much, I think, both informed by and a bit weighed down by how much of these are pulling from the tropes of really just like Gygaxian storytelling, right? Where you accumulate skill after skill after skill in like a session after session after session. And, I think a lot of the past couple times that we've been on, it's been a lot of talk about like how D&D struggles a little bit towards the end game when it comes to, it's tough to kind of like work as demigods in a basic world that isn't always built for that kind of stuff. It can actually make the play a little bit more boring. You have inconsistencies between how magic users, for instance, and non-magic users are able to do stuff. It's just like this is really where like this deep into a franchise shows some of the difficulties of that. And I actually didn't want to talk too much more about that because I feel like we talked a lot about that so far. The thing that I actually wanted to highlight was so I think the way that they are so there comes a time in every D&D journey where you increasingly begin to want to make a new character, and I would argue that Dom and his son are potentially attempting to make a new character that would be of interest to a next generation of Fast and Furious fans. So I think that Brian Toretto is interesting, because there's a phenomenon that happens when you play a lot of D&D, is that like you do kind of tee up the next character, and then you and the DM have an unspoken tussle over how much of your shit you're allowed to give that character. And so like a lot of like because obviously like if I were to like retire as an adventurer and then make a new one and be like, oh yes, but you can have my ring of invincibility, it's +10 to all attacks, and like that causes severe game breaking problems, and navigating that tension is an element of D&D. And so like I think that they're always just like, the kid's gonna be a better wrench than we are by the time that he's 12. It's just like, I see what the fuck you're doing, Vin Diesel. I see how you're trying to set up this kid. This kid's a level 2, and you are trying to give him the dexterity of +4 to all engine checks, and it's
he's already driving in this movie. Like they're already like, this kid's going to be like the best at everything.
And so like they're already setting up, because like the fun of like starting with a new character is like you do have that kind of dissonance between your talents and what you want your talents to be and what the world needs of them, and that's the tension that makes a lot of these movies go right. If you're not invincible, it's interesting, and right, whereas like you see them kind of setting up as be like, yeah, but the kid's like, he's almost drifting, by the way, like the thing that is very hard to do. Perhaps he's going to be the drift prince, who knows. And it's just like essentially the interesting thing about like Gygaxian art versus Campbellian art, right, which is the stuff like the hero's journey stuff, is that the hero's journey always, it's very easy to reboot, because you can just take the person who was the hero and then you turn them into like the wise man or advisor. Star Wars did this twice, right? They turned, the Obi-Wan is ostensibly the heroic figure of the first of the prequel films. He becomes the heroic advisor in the original Star Wars films, and then after that, Luke becomes the heroic advisor in the sequel films, right? It's very easy to kind of plug and play a hero's journey style cyclic story into a reboot era, whereas it is actually rather hard to do it in a Gygaxian sense. And so that is my pick of the week, which is that like the D&D thing is that these things really do resist being cleanly rebooted, and it's very obvious that Dom is trying to smuggle as much loot as possible before whatever fall he takes in Fast 11.
Do you think he survives Fast 11?
I think he's no, I don't think he does. I think that it's a good clean end. I think that like we'll talk a little bit. I want to say some of my like predictions for the future week when we wrap up, because I think that this movie, I actually like meeting it on its terms of ending when it does. But I will say, like, I think that so much of these films have kind of been setting up that like family's the thing that outlives you. And like that was a big theme in Fast 9, right? That was a big theme in Fast 10. Like the entire idea of like, when he's thinking about his father and thinking about his relationship with his own father and that kind of stuff, it's just like immortality is not achieved through whatever ends Eteon wants to offer you. It is achieved through family. And I think that is incomprehensible to be the core theme of the late stage of this franchise and still have Dom pull out, you know?
Yeah, for sure. You know, one thing, Joe, I don't know if we've talked about before on here. One thing I really liked about this movie, I know we've talked about her, but Daniela Melchior as Elena's little sister, Isabel, her, like, whole thing feels very, like, early Fast and Furious, where she's, like, all attitude. Like, instead of character traits, she just has attitude. And I'm like, this feels like a throwback to a simpler time.
Yeah, she's just like she's the re-Lettying of the Letty, and now that Walt was bringing up that like Dom's trying to smuggle stuff, like, is Daniela Melchior just gonna be the new Letty? You know what I mean? Like, do we have to like start her at level 2 with just attitude, and she has to work her way up now? Because it seems like now that like once you put this into perspective like that, then yes, these are the characters that we are building to hand off to.
But Joe, how do you choose the ones you save?
The hottest one.
Very
that's what he
truthful answer
does
from Joe.
That's what they do in the Fast and the Furious.
Well, he basically says, I know you're Elena's little sister. I can't not save you, even though the other choice is fan favorite Diogo, right? Like, I gotta let fan favorite Diogo die so I can save my baby mama's little sister, the aunt to my son.
Truth. Family first. Family.
You're seeing like some of these threads come out. Obviously, Brie Larson as the heir to nobody. Han has been taking care of that girl for a little while. Like, you know, you're seeing them kind of percolate the idea of like, this isn't just a family, it's an intergenerational family, right?
Also, shout out to Anna Sawai for winning Best Actress in a Limited Series Emmy. She,
Elle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool.
Adopted little sister.
I didn't know that.
Major.
I did not put that together. Yeah, actually.
Yep.
She's never coming back to this franchise.
No.
Are the Torettos the shittiest neighbors in the world? They've gotten their house blown up. Multiple times people have come shooting through it. They have parties at night. And then, to think about it, they've rebuilt the house. So there's been construction for who knows how long next door to you.
It depends on whether they invite you to the barbecue.
Interesting.
Doesn't seem like they do, though.
No,
right?
No,
It's
but
closed
they
off.
wouldn't put that in the fill. Like maybe just in their downtime, they're like, "Hey, bro, you want to come over?
Take a plate over or something afterwards."
Take a
type
plate
situation.
over. We got some roast chicken and mac and cheese and steaks. Maybe some lobster.
We got an
Does
RC
that cover up? Would you want to live next to them, exploding their house and then rebuilding it like every 2 years?
If they can
They're so lucky they're not part of an HOA or something. They would still not, they would not be there, right? Like, I've had never thought about that, but no, they're terrible neighbors. To be fair, I've never had my apartment blow up, but I probably yet, okay,
so far,
but I probably it would be considered a terrible neighbor too. Like, I don't invite my neighbors over for chicken dinners and stuff, so at the very least, they're not good neighbors.
Damn, didn't the apartment next to you blow up once?
No, yeah.
Were they good neighbors?
They were not.
Okay.
Well, because it did blow. I mean, it blew up. They left a canister of something next to their heater, next to their radiator, and it exploded and set the whole apartment on fire, and the whole building was on fire. And the fire department came, and they did the whole thing where you break a window with an axe and go inside. Like, it was dramatic, and but it was literally my direct next door neighbor in the apartment building.
So would a plate of chicken have fixed this?
Yeah, but that was like their fault, though.
So I also think
it's not Dom's fault that someone sent him a bomb package on his front porch.
Here's the thing. Number one, kind of is. Number two, he got his house shot up in the first film of this series.
Yes.
And so, like, here's my theory. I'm actually going to bridge two theories. Eteon is an insurance company that wants these guys dead because the cost of insuring that fucking house has gone through the roof. There's an accountant somewhere in Des Moines who's just like, we got to get rid of these guys. We're going to make way more money if we just rub them out. Then call in Cypher, call in the National Guard.
Mr. Nobody's part of the adjustment team. He has to like babysit them to make sure they don't break too much shit.
Yeah. He has to give them very silly missions abroad.
How much is that house even worth? It's like a 3-bedroom.
Maybe it's not about what it's worth; it's about what's insured for. Okay, and like at the end of the day, if that house is worth more as rubble than it is standing, Eteon is an insurance company.
So I had a question I was going to ask earlier, and this is maybe answering it in a way. There's the room in which low-rent Pat McAfee meets Brie Larson, meets Tess for the first time. There's like a walkway to the middle. It's basically like Charles Xavier's like room where he does like the thinking, but like it's all just screens around.
Cerebro.
What do you guys think that room is usually used for? Now I'm thinking it's maybe like where they survey, insurance damage and like do it from there. But like that seems like so custom built for this one scene. But I'm trying to think like practically, like that's a big room to have in whatever building.
It's a Zoom room.
During the school year, it's a planetarium for the kids that they bring them around.
Okay. That's a good
on a field trip. And then by night they use it to try to kill Dom.
Right. It's the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's the Sphere. James Dolan
built this thing. Just for that.
Like you didn't see it. They cut the scene. It was the one scene that they ever had to cut. But they say like, "Hey, listen, McAfee, Brie Larson, you got to get the fuck out of here. The band needs to warm up. Fish is going on in 15."
They've been moving toward this aesthetic for movies and movies and movies. Though, right? That's what they're going for. All the screens are blue. Like when there's a hacker screen, it's always like blue.
Yeah,
just cool.
The whole point of that scene is to give the people who maintain the Wikia a ton of headaches over giving exact dates to events that do not need exact.
Well, speaking of hackers in this movie, what do you guys think of Pete Davidson?
Oh, I forgot.
I also forgot.
I did not care for that element of the film.
Rachel had the same exact reaction. She I'm watching it and she's like, "Oh fuck, I forgot Pete Davidson's in this." Like that was like the first thing she said.
I like Han and the cupcake. Or the muffins.
How do you feel about the hallucination hinting in this film? Like we've never seen them like do drugs before, you know what I mean, or something like that.
Straight edge. The reason that we haven't seen them do drugs before is because the primary means of competition in this film is driving fucking cars. So like, there's a lot of things that you can show on a screen in America, and like drugged driving is not one of them quite yet.
So what's the weirdest part of that scene? Han getting high, Pete Davidson's involvement at all, or Roman doing the LeBron powder thing for no reason other than
LeBron
just
which we have a story about.
What's the story?
Now I hear it.
So we like when we saw this, we were like, what the fuck is Tyrese doing? Why did he do like a LeBron powder spray for no reason? And then, like, we eventually, like, found an interview with Leterrier, and he's like, yeah, Tyrese just said, hold on, I got something cool to do, and just did it.
You know?
He was like, I don't really know why.
The collaborative art of filmmaking.
Yeah, he's like, he was really one to do that, and so he did it. He let him do it. That was it.
That's so funny.
Like, I think part of us originally was like, it's probably just Tyrese being Tyrese, and we're like, there's no way that could possibly be the answer. But Occam's razor, like, yes, it's the answer. Like, if Tyrese is in the scene, that's probably why.
There's a lot of stuff like this in this movie. And, like, again, I don't mean this as a negative because some of the stuff I liked, but, like, when they're playing, like, the stinger from Black Swan as the leitmotif on the bridge, and I'm just like, very interesting, like, ballet. And, like, clearly, I think Momoa, like, alludes to a ballet or something at some point. But I was like, they should be doing more of this. Like, we've talked a couple times over the course of this franchise about, like, one of my biggest issues with this is that they don't avail themselves of the opportunity to, like, have a really, like, there's no, like, orchestral soundtrack to this kind of thing. There are no leitmotifs to this kind of thing. And obviously, as they try to build this into, like, a saga, like, one thing that they are really kind of operating with their hand tied behind their back is the music, where they don't have different kind of orchestral themes that kind of can navigate the emotions of the people, on screen, even if they themselves won't acknowledge it. And, like, I think that some of the moments get a little bit, like, some of the big meaningful moments don't have as much oomph behind them as a result. But, like, when they were just, like, did that strange needle drop of Black Swan, I was like, hell yeah, man, that's dope. Like, that's a really good way to, like, that. I would watch a movie score to this. Like,
by the way, Joe, I'm sad that in our Randy cut, that's going to play at 3:00 in the morning when none of us will be awake, because Margaret would have strong feelings about it. Like, she loves Swan Lake, and I don't think she would appreciate that being in that scene.
We
but maybe
just
she
need
would
to nap and wake up, and so we're ready for it at 3 a.m.
0% chance she's going to be awake at 3:00 in the morning. I can tell you that much. But yeah, no, that is weird. We're like, okay, yeah. That whole scene on the bridge with, like, Tess appearing and Isabel being there, and just as, like, it all feels Marvel-y in a way, right? Where it's like
Deadpool-y. You said Deadpool-y earlier. It feels very Deadpool-y to me.
But also in the Marvel thing, like, Dante, there's a line in here where he says, collateral damage, he's talking to Dom, collateral damage, chaos, death, this is your legacy. And that's a very kind of, like, pushback against the Avengers. Like, you did like Sokovia, and like you caused irreparable harm to this world. Is the Toretto legacy damage and death and chaos? Or is the legacy something else? To the world, not to us. To us as family, but to the world.
I had this thought when Vin Diesel provides us the beautiful line, "I only care about protecting the people that I love." And that had me thinking, is this all just an escalation from a few mistakes that happened in the first movie, where now he's just always trying to protect the people that he loves as things get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse over time? Like what the problems in the first movie, he's trying to steal stuff, trying to provide for his family, right? Trying to provide for all the friends that he's made, the people he grew up with, his sister, and then he gets into trouble with the law. And over the course of the next several movies, it just gets worse and worse and worse for, like, Brian gets in trouble in Florida. I was like, oh, I gotta help him. And then Han in Tokyo, like, oh yeah, we gotta help him later. Like, whatever it is, like, we just gotta go help my friends. And their problems just get bigger and bigger and bigger over time, until now he has to essentially try to save the whole world, and then people become collateral damage in that process.
I do think the bomb going off in Rome is arguably, like, if you were like to assess this as an insurer would, that is the biggest disaster that happens as a result of this thing, right? Like
although they make a very clear point and say no one died in the explosion. Like, so at least there's no human collateral.
Yeah, but like that's like that the buildings aren't meant to do that. I don't know. But like if this dam explodes, right? Like, let's be clear. Like the Hoover Dam took billions of dollars and like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of man hours to build. Like,
I've seen that Modern Marvels episode. You're right.
If a dam is destroyed, that is like a pretty big problem, right? And like I think that like if you go through the history of it, like Brazil, downtown Rio, a little bit wreckage. That's probably the biggest damage that they get into. They destroy a plane and 6. But like I think that in general, besides like a few plane crashes, they're actually kind of doing fine.
They never explain the Russian separatists in Fate of the Furious. They never explain whether they're like good or bad. We assume that they're bad.
They're like Wagner Group. Ignore them. But like, I think that like F9, the finale of that involves like what, like a plane crash,
space.
Yeah, that's a bad habit. Well, actually, fucking up a satellite is very expensive. That's probably the biggest damage that they did. And again, if there's a Kuleshov effect of is that the one where it's like, well, all the space junk will then exponentially cause more space junk? Like that could actually cause some actual problems. But in general, I don't think that Dante has a leg to stand on here. I don't think that they are actually that destructive, all things considered. The LA confrontation in 6 isn't great, but also they're not the ones with a minigun on a helicopter.
You guys totally should get someone from the insurance industry and do a whole lap with them. That's what the people want to hear. And every film, just assess the damage.
Riveting insurance salesman, all those guys.
But you mentioned the Avengers, and those movies actually, for the most part, or at a certain point, did a really good job of showing how the world was affected by the happenings of what was going on in those films, right? What do you think is the world's awareness of what is happening in this franchise, right? Like, again, in the Avengers, everyone knows that a third of the population has disappeared, or countries are literally brought to the sky and being pulled apart, or there's alien invasions, right? Like, there's an awareness of this. Like, could this be happening now in reality to us and us have no idea? Or is there some sort of awareness that all this is going on in the world, like for the regular Joe Schmoes or Joe Twos of the world?
They were on the news.
Yeah, they make the news.
4 into 5, yeah.
That is true.
So like I think internationally they're aware that they were on the Interpol's most wanted list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but okay, name me right now who are the top 5 people on Interpol's most wanted list.
I'll tell you what. Musk. Number 1 is the guy who did all the fucking cars in New York that exploded in 7, right? The one who took control of every car in New York City and crashed them. There would be a Wikipedia page about that effect, right?
But is it like
Dom Toretto in it? Dom Toretto has a Wikipedia page in the Fast and Furious universe. I'm saying it.
That's a big statement. That's a big statement.
International criminal Dom Toretto.
or hero?
Complicated legacy.
Mm-hmm. Legacy section.
Because I'm really not sure how much this is like a shadow war that could potentially be actually happening in our own reality, or if this is something of like, oh my God, that organization's at it again, or could this be linked to what happened in Brazil, or could this be linked?
Eteon is a publicly traded company, as I have insisted many times.
Wait, so Walt, if there is a wiki page for the zombie cars in Fate of the Furious, do you think that is more or less well known than the Dave Matthews Band dropping 800 pounds of poop on that boat in Chicago?
First of all, excellent question. Natural disasters that happen in cities.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that would be like a pretty big deal. I think people would talk about that. I think that it's like bigger than the 1977 blackout, which I think everyone knows about. Like, I think it's like it's well known. They refer to it like.
Would there be a charity walk for it?
There would be a charity drive for it. You know?
Yeah. Like,
and
every
I think
year.
it would come out of our favorite event, Race Wars.
Yeah. True. They would take up a collection. That's true.
Yeah. Right. A famous charitable event. Race Wars.
Yeah. Pretty fair.
The first thing they say in this movie is we're going to need 12 tanks of laughing gas. Why? It's like one of the first things they say. Why did they need that for the mission? And follow-up question, do you think Diddy had more or less than 12 tanks of laughing gas in his house today?
Well, the over-under for the bottles of baby oil is 1,000.
That's what I mean.
But laughing gas is just NOS, right?
Yeah.
It's nitrous oxide. That's what they put in their guns.
It's a good point.
But
they can get high off that, but they don't, because they use it for cars. No drugs in this movie.
No unless you eat a muffin.
Unless you're with Pete Davidson, yeah.
Yeah. First drugs in the. But yeah, no, laughing gas is just NOS. If I recall my.
You're right.
I'm pretty sure. Are those lasers that heal Letty real?
Of course they are. Didn't you see the lasers that Eteon had?
Oh, good point. Yes, we've established it. Yeah, this isn't even a smart question, Joey.
Medicine is very advanced in the Fastiverse.
Lasers cure people all the time in real life.
True.
They're just not. They don't look cool.
Very good point. Brian's right.
I think that like we're not talking enough about one of the most important elements in this movie, which is one of my favorite elements of this movie, and Kim, I know it's one of yours, which is that this film has 4 Best Actress winners in it.
Oh, I have a
Okay.
There are 4 Best Actress.
Everybody listen to me. Listen to me. Rita Moreno, okay? Can we talk about this absolute superstar in this
great
movie,
grandma?
Okay? Obviously, she is known for her exemplary work in the seminal Hollywood films like 1961's West Side Story, right? She won an Academy Award for Best Actress in a supporting role.
Okay, well, yeah. That's on me.
For her work as Anita. And, of course, her immense performance in the groundbreaking landmark 2023 film 80 for Brady.
God damn it.
Okay, Rita Moreno.
Is the one thing you like more than fucking wrestling.
It is. 80 for Brady is better than all the Fast and Furious movies and better than professional wrestling. It is one of the all-time pieces of art.
Just get on with the Rita Moreno.
Ever. That's it. That's all I got. That was the.
I like that finally in this episode, Kim broke Walt. Like they've been friends for like probably seemingly decades, but it's this where he's just like, I can't hear about 80 for Brady one more time. I can't hear about it
one more fucking time. Like, I can't. I just wanted to remark that, like, again, Charlize, Brie, Helen Mirren, and Rita Moreno all in the same movie, and it is Fast X. Like, I do like Vin Diesel. This is the part where I look at his unmarried status and I'm like, is he one of us? But at the same time, I admire him giving a lot of work to some very, very talented actresses.
Vin Diesel also in this movie portrays a character who flips a car with one arm. And poor leverage. And poor leverage is the more important thing.
I think that this movie is also, like, I considered it for the D&D thing, but like this script goes very hard in a lot of places. Like it's like a cult with cars. Thank you for saying it. Nobody else would. It's like the days when one man behind a wheel of a car can make a difference are over. Love that. I'm glad that we explored those themes in Top Gun too.
Top Gun Maverick, let's go.
And then like I'm not gonna and like the idea of like never accept death when suffering is owed. That is a 17-year-old Dungeons and Dragons DM ass line. That's great. That's a really good villain defining line. And then you made one mistake. You never took my car. That goes hard as hell. And then I think my favorite thing, like I really, really like this, and it's one reason I really like Momoa performance is it goes like, looks like Uncle Muscle won't make it to the next barbecue. I mean, it's very honorable. Like it's a really good line reading for right after he kills John Cena, who is definitely not dead.
Definitely not dead.
There is absolutely no way that John Cena is.
0% chance. Either way, I just appreciated how much this script leaned into everything that makes this franchise good.
I will also say, in terms of like callbacks and making this franchise good and defining characteristics, I don't think we've ever talked about, which seems remarkable because I feel like everything we talk about on these shows we've talked about 10 times before, but Dom catches Letty flying through the air in Fast and Furious 6 on a bridge, and in this movie he catches Baby B flying through the air on a bridge. Like, it feels like you become a Toretto officially when Dom catches you while you're flying through the air on a bridge in an action scene.
Again, Fast 11. Somebody's gonna have to catch him on a bridge, and they're gonna miss, and that's the way that he goes
that's when
out.
there's one set of footprints.
Yeah, exactly.
Who else gets sent through the window? Because we got like Ramsey, right? In
Ramsey in 7. Mm-hmm.
7,
Right.
And then there's the Hobbs and Shaw window scene.
We've talked a little bit about how this franchise requires most of its actions to take place in a car, and they have kind of run out of things that one can do with a vehicle. And so as a result, they do have to kind of go back to some of these. Like, there's only a couple ways to enter a vehicle. Most of them are called doors. The other less popular ones are windows. Occasionally, you got to send someone through a window, right?
Skylights.
Oh, hey. We got to get them on the phone.
Kim, any final thoughts about Fast 10?
I'm still stuck on how amazing Rita Moreno is.
She's quite good.
So good.
Do you think she'll be back in the finale, or is she just like, this is the favor? You got me for this one day.
What could she possibly owe? Like, what did Vin Diesel possibly do for Rita Moreno that this is a favor?
I think he's super charismatic to older women. I think that's the same reason why like Helen Mirren loves him, and I think this is like he talks to them and is just like super like just like, oh my god, I love all your work, and they're like, oh shit, this giant muscly dude like is really a film nerd and loves.
He's a film
my
buff.
acting.
I do like that about him.
And I think that's what it is. I think he just is like, hey, you want to play a role in my movie? And they're like, what would I do? And he's like, look, I was imagining you as my mom, like my grandma, And they're like, oh god, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Joe, do you expect the rest of the cast of 80 for Brady to be there in 10? Because we got Jane Fonda, we got Sally Field, we got Lily Tomlin. Like they could. There's roles here for them.
Look, if Sally Field comes back, I mean, Burt Reynolds died, right? So we can't really recreate those movies, but that's a way in.
That's very true. Mm-hmm. Good point.
Joe, 80 for Brady, one of the few movies we didn't cover yet on our Coastal Grand Bros podcast, but we'll get there. As a Latin American, this, and I know you guys don't like this take because I've said it before, this pissed me off so royally. I love Rita Moreno, but are we retconning that the Toretto family is a Latin family? No, look, there's plenty of great Latin actors, Latin moments, but Vin Diesel's not a Latin actor. John Cena is the least Latin person. Whatever. John Cena is the least Latin person I've ever seen.
Well, no, they write that off by Cypher saying, I never detected a Nordic strain. That there's one throwaway line that's like, this is why.
In 9, yeah, in the last one, yeah.
I get it. Like, look at me. It's a wide gene pool. That part makes sense, but it just feels like they cherry pick the best of the world's ethnicities and decide to be them when they want to be them, and that frustrates me a tad. And now I'm going to say the opposite about this film. I'm going to betray everything I just said. Cole Hauser's so hot right now. Give me Carter Verone. Despite not being a Latin person, playing a Latin person, I miss Carter Verone.
And a villain.
And a villain. I miss Carter Verone. I don't know why. The cigar cutter thing. The just Miami nastiness. So I was disappointed not to see him here. And I'm always disappointed that we get more Fast and Furious films that do not have Bilkins in them. I thought he would finally come back for 10. That big heroic Bilkins moment. So I'm hoping for 11. I think the fans want it.
I did one of Walter's things from the earlier movies was how much he loved the whole cop scenario in the first two films.
Yeah, like they were leaning very hard into that in a way that does not at all register later on. Because it goes from being like a very 80s kind of style, like that kind of cop movie, to international super spies led by Brie Larson. And that it's a gradual shift, I grant you, but it is nevertheless a shift.
You want some regular cops in there, right?
Yeah.
Some good police.
You're watching The Wire.
Yeah, I haven't watched
God
The Wire.
damn it.
Yeah. Sometimes you watch The Wire.
So is Michael. He loves it. It's really good.
You gotta see what the good police are doing.
You got to see what they're doing. You know McNulty's a personal hero of mine.
Of course he is. McNulty is definitely a personal hero.
Do you guys like the journalism season of that or no?
Catholic whiskey. Yes.
Journalism scene of The Wire, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Season.
Mid.
5?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Come on.
Pretty bad.
The journalism stuff's the best part of that season, though. The newsroom stuff. Going back a second to Jane Fonda, do you know that Jane Fonda's mother's name is Frances Ford Seymour?
I did not know that.
Another Frances Ford, but she spells with an E, not an I.
Mm.
Joe, any other thoughts about Fast 10?
Did we know that Queenie's first name was Madeline? Because I saw that this time.
Where do you see that? Where is that?
When Ramsey's like, oh, and I got something to show you, and like shows Queenie on the board, it says Madeline Shaw.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I didn't know if we knew that or not. And apparently you sound surprised, so maybe we didn't.
We might have. I don't remember it now, though.
Yeah.
Walt, final thoughts?
Is this the first time that Gasolina has been played in the Fast franchise?
Good question.
I like that song, and I think I would have noticed if it happened before then. And if it is the case that this is the first time, I am shocked, because that is a really spot-on song for this thing.
Especially considering all of Los Bandoleros is about gasoline.
Right.
I agree, and we were so confused how Despacito never made it into the Fast and the Furious.
Oh, that's got to be a right thing.
Note.
You just got to wait him
Right?
out a little bit longer.
It feels like that song was like made for these movies.
But yeah, good movie. Honestly, I also think that it's Cena's strongest performance in this franchise. I thought he was really good in this.
Gasolina apparently is credited in Tokyo Drift. I don't remember it.
I don't remember it either. Maybe it was just like on the soundtrack.
Joe, we'll watch on Saturday. We'll find out.
We'll find. Yeah, we'll report back.
That's going to be late, though. That's going to be late into the thing, after
6.
After 6.
Yeah, you guys have a fun Saturday ahead of you.
It's going to be a long Saturday.
It's a very long Saturday.
My only other note is that in this movie, Queenie compares Dom to gladiators. She's like, gladiators didn't have families because they all knew they were going to die. She's like, you are a gladiator, but you have a family. I'm just wondering, Gladiator 2 coming out. Would Gladiator 2 make more money if Vin Diesel was in it?
Yeah, I mean, we want to see the fucking Hannibal movie. I really want to see that.
Yeah.
I think I have I've been kind of mad that he hasn't buckled down to actually make it, because I think that movie would be really, really sick. And obviously he's at the age where he would have to be Hamilcar and not Hannibal, but I do think that that vision is a really good one. That movie would make a lot of money. I don't know. I think that yes, a sword and sandal Vin Diesel flick involving the Roman Empire, yes, but they're the baddies.
Mm.
I went to Carthage last year in Tunisia.
Oh, I've heard it's very Delenda these days.
And all I could think about was, where's the Hannibal movie, guys?
Yeah.
Come on.
Morocco has so many fucking tax credits. Tunisia has so many tax credits. The fact that this movie hasn't happened simply from a budget optimization standpoint is offensive to me as a film journalist.
You need to turn Numlock News and Sherwood News into the MakeHannibalHappen.com.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should,
I don't
but
know
maybe
if
you
this
could.
is the date we recorded this, but there's an item about Carthage in it tomorrow. I know that's the very Hey, I know, but I swear it is. There's my newsletter is very silly.
It's very good though. Also, are you still? But when this comes out on Tuesday, will the sale still be going on or no?
Probably. I think I forgot to turn it off, and I think I'm just gonna leave it on for a little while. But yeah, no, there's definitely, if people want to subscribe to become a paid subscriber, it's just discounted. So yeah,
year for $35.
Can I ask a question to the group here? Carthage, overrated?
Whoa, no,
They lost.
they're underrated if anything.
But they super lost.
Yeah, but
My overrated
so
hot
a lot of
take.
things.
Perhaps the Romans have just pumped up the image of Carthage only to pump themselves up as defeating them.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Except for the fact that it's replicated in Greek texts. You fool. They obviously refer to the Phoenicians in many different areas, not only in Roman literature, but as well as in the Athenian types. So yeah, we know for a fact that Carthage was a great city.
This
thing
is
in
the
what we're-
content that your listeners want to hear on a more regular basis.
So we need an insurance adjuster for one, and then a Carthaginian.
expert. Yes.
I
get a
just want, like,
historian.
Oh, I don't know. Do we know anybody who visited? Fucking Odysseus. Odysseus visited.
Was Odysseus real, though? I don't know.
We're gonna get-
Another thing we can debate as we pivot more to historical debates here. Every question, just like, Hannibal, overrated? Charlemagne, underrated?
We're gonna do a mock draft of Roman generals.
You're
Oh my
gonna
God.
see in the next Fast and Furious movie, if someone rides an elephant, this conversation's getting real intense.
Oh shoot, yeah. They've gone to space, but they have not crossed the Alps.
How much? Who's crossed the Pyrenees on an elephant?
Joe, is an elephant a vehicle?
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. You have tickled my fancy with the mock draft of Roman generals. That would be
Hey,
so
I will
fun.
come back on your podcast anytime. I promise to watch the right movie the first time.
How often do you think about Roman generals? All right, there's one more thing to do. It's called This Ain't No 10-Second Race, a.k.a. Boy Do We Have a Podcast for You.
Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Come and check out our show. Yeah.
So this is where we go on twitter.com, a.k.a. the Bird app. X.com, the everything app. I'm not on autopilot, but I'm just so used to it. But I got to respect Mr. Tweet. We're going to go on x.com, the everything app, find a tweet from someone tweeting about these movies and respond to them as us while you guys find. I know I have Walt's already. I'm going to go through last episode's tweets, which was F9. We have 4 tweets here. See if we got any points. I don't remember if we got any points. So this is going to be new.
I think somebody did.
All right, I found Miyuko at Miyuko_Junsei. What? At John Cena's hashtag Jacob Toretto died, but he may be cheating death emoji since hashtag FastX. At the Fast Saga is resurrecting him for the 11th and final installment, hashtag Fast11. John Cena's Fast and Furious 11 return looks even more unlikely after one major update. We said we'd love to have John Cena back, or Jacob back. Do you want him back? Boy, do we have a podcast for you. It got a like. But from Randy Carter, does not count, unfortunately. Nope. 0 for 1. Joe, you found Home is Where You Make It at Oh That's Kev. Bro, folks really hacked the top company and was requesting 300 mil? I can't grasp this. Like, is this Cypher from Fast and Furious? And we said, yeah, shrug emoji. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. It got 1 like, but I believe it's probably also from Randy. It is, unfortunately, swing and a miss there.
Damn.
Walt, you found Wyatt at VLZXERO, Christopher Nolan watching Tesla Roman go to space in F9, and a picture of him in the theater going, ooh. We also love these films, we said. We hope that Christopher Nolan is a listener. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Got a like. Again, Randy. Thank you, Randy, for the support, but none there. And then, Kim, you found Khaleesi at Alexa Targaryen, watching Fast and Furious 9, and what do you mean they're in fucking space? How'd they go from racing in cars to launching out into space? And we said, they're in fucking space. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Got a like, again, from Randy, so unfortunately, 0 for 4. No. Walt, you sent yours in first. Can you please hit us with your tweet, please, and thank you.
Great. It is a quote tweet, so I'm going to read the nested tweet first and then get to the tweet. Is that amenable? Lovely.
Yeah.
So the original tweet, the tweet that is being quote tweeted is, if Tim Burton doesn't do a Beetlejuice 3 and call it Threedlejuice, then the world might as well be over. Compelling notion. The tweet that is quoting that I would like to respond to is, I had a similar suggestion for Fast and Furious 10. It should have been called Fast 10 Your Seatbelts, not Fast X.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we should just say, couldn't agree more. If you think so, we have a podcast for you.
Cam, you also sent yours in. Please hit us with your tweet. It has a nice GIF on it.
Oh, yeah. This is Elvis Pausley at
Ooh.
Typhoon Tyler, who says, watching Fast X for the first time. Not great, but better than F9. But goddamn, Jason Momoa is amazing.
Hell yeah.
This is his best character since Game of Thrones. He had so much fun with this, and you can really tell with a gif of him saying, I'm Dante. Oh, it's Dante.
So
Beautiful. I'm so glad
And,
it's in the GIF repertoire.
I would like to reply, Drogo versus Dante. Who wins?
That engagement bait
It's a good thing. It's perfect.
You fucker. The fact that you've only just figured this out on the 10th one and I don't have time to respond. Damn you.
I've tried it.
Walt, I'll remind you, this is actually the 11th one. We have,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good work. Checkmate.
Joe, hit us with yours, please.
Mine's from Meph Stevenson at Mariah Stevenson. She says, Friday night movie, Fast X, Vin Diesel, Jason Momoa, and Jason Statham. Yum. A good escape movie from all the crap going on in the world. And I want to say, you know what, Mariah? That's why we watch these every week on loop forever. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
Brian, please.
Well, I always do one for myself and one for charity.
That's fine.
Of course.
Yeah.
I also have one for charity tonight, too.
Oh, good. This is the one for myself. This is by Black Lion King 73. My 9th grade history teacher told me that Carthage was never a real threat to Rome and Hannibal was overrated. I made 500 copies of an article about his military prowess from the encyclopedia and taped them to his car. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. I don't know what to say with that. I just need to highlight this, guys.
We were just talking about this. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
It's also from 3 years ago, but okay.
That's fine.
So is that for charity or is that for you?
That's for me. That's for me. Do your charity, because I'm looking for my charity. I'm almost on something.
Okay. This is the one I'm going to play for because I think this is going to be the easier one. It's from Logan at Quinn's Vessel. # now watching Fast X, parentheses 2023. I'm just going to say, what'd you think?
Okay. There you go.
Just very simple. Just don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. End.
Engagement bait.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Now that we're over, I want to tell Walt my honey hole that I found because he can't use it. I would just search biggest Fast and Furious fan and just reply to them, and they would go nuts.
Damn it!
It was a great honey hole.
That's a good one.
Yeah, they're like, I'm the biggest Fast and Furious fan. I'd be like, really? So are we? And they'd be like, thanks. And then that was it, every time.
That's how we found Reaction Rocket, because he's like, I only like Fast and Furious and Sprite. And Joe's like, I found someone
that can relate, yeah.
Reaction Rocket's great. Reaction Rocket, I've been following you for a few weeks. So it's a delight. You're a wonderful, wonderful.
His theories are incredible,
the craft
right?
of pumping these up. Mm-hmm.
This is significant effort. I mostly just went on to X and then searched for Fast and Furious approximately
also
4 to 5 minutes before the actual selection.
Totally fine. You probably have more points than a lot of people.
No, I have 0.
Okay, the one I'm going to go to for charity is from Galaxy of Misery. I think their name is Alexi, because it's Galaxy of Misery at Wannabe Cyborg. I wish Fast 10 had been better, if only because I still think about the way Jason Momoa put his whole Momusi into that performance.
You guys crushed tonight.
Amazing. 10 out of 10.
That's a great
our
one.
Twitter feed is going to be very confusing to our fans until they hear this episode.
No, it's not. It's going to be extremely...
You're right. Yeah, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, this went way off the rails. What happened?
Yep.
The Carthage one is going to throw them for a loop for a second, Ryan. I appreciate that greatly.
Really?
Can I do my charity one?
Right.
Yeah. I'm just saying, incredible analysis. Hard to agree about the Momusi. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Brian, what's your one for charity?
Okay. Are you guys familiar with teen and child actor Devon Sawa?
That's
You mean
it.
Jojo Sawa?
From
No, that's
Casper.
Jojo Siwa. Yes, from Casper,
sorry.
of course.
Okay, fair.
So Devon Sawa says 80 for Brady, but I can't get Idle Hands 2 off the ground. Little shady diss there. We covered Idle Hands on High School Slumber Party.
More like shady for Brady.
That's the follow up. That's the tweet. More like shady for Brady. Am I right, Devon?
Perfect.
Am I right?
Charity's
And then I'm going to say, boy, do we have a podcast for you, but I'm going to link to High School Slumber Party.
Sure.
Speaking of High School Slumber Party, Brian, give our listeners the good news. When's that coming back?
Whew, we'll see. When my child turns 18 and I can sleep again.
So that's soon, huh?
No, we'll see. We're getting there. September is a busy month, but yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Brian, pitch the voting. Come on, here's your chance.
I'm not
you have
pitching
an audience
I'm
now.
not pitching the baby voting. I gave that one day.
You pitched it to me. Pitch it
And
to
you,
them.
I can't believe you voted for my baby for Jessica Alba's Baby of the Year. I appreciate that.
I know now 4 babies in this competition. We know 4
Hopefully-
babies in the same competition.
Well, look,
for Baby of the Year.
there are many brackets. There are 20 brackets around the country, believe it or not.
That's too many. That's NCAA has what, 4? We start with 4, right?
I think Penelope is currently 3rd in her bracket. You got to be first by Thursday. That's totally okay. That's okay. You know, she'll win in life, I hope, rather than next
You
Thursday.
don't
My
want to
wife
peak
tells
early, you know?
Yeah,
Truth.
exactly, right? So I'm not gonna promote that. Who knows when this episode comes out anyway?
Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see. But I will promote, back catalog, High School Slumber Party. More on the front catalog, though. Uncle Francis's Wine Cellar, as Megalopolis comes out soon. Our Francis Ford Coppola podcast. I am currently editing. We have so much backed episodes on that, on like instant Megalopolis reaction that didn't come out, that I'm having to weave it as a narrative of like Megalopolis, the journey. So it's just going to be clips of us like realizing things about the movie, and then we'll get into the film. So it's I don't have my ticket yet, but I'm assuming that I can just roll up to any theater and go. I don't think it's going to be something where I'll be fighting over tickets for this film, but I can't wait. I know Mike Manzi can't wait. I mean, I hope he can go. He's a hotshot tattoo artist now. Oof. When we return for that show, we have a lot of splaining to do. Our lives have diverted in such interesting ways, but it's not going to be as interesting as Megalopolis, so check that out as well. And then check out all the great Patreon episodes that I'm on for this podcast. As mentioned, if you are a new patron, these guys will mail you an HD DVD of your choosing from the franchise. So do that.
I spend $30 to buy 3 HD DVDs I can't even play just because I'm a collector of abandoned media.
Mention code Carthage and get an HD DVD from these guys. If you mention that and become a patron, they're going to make your day. So thanks, guys, for having me on. Appreciate it.
I recommend the Bling Ring episode of High School Slumber Party of Uncle Francis Wine Cellar.
That's the best episode.
Very good
best episode of Uncle Francis Wine Cellar.
Sorry. Do not forget to check out the back catalog of Coastal Grand Bros, Joe and I's show where we get drunk and watch.
You interrupted me for that?
It's important. It pays the bills. I got to send a kid to college.
Kim, what would you like to plug? This episode is out in 1 week on Tuesday.
Yeah, so I'm a reporter at Bloomberg Businessweek magazine, and I have a story out called "The Man Who Made Nike Uncool." It's the past 5 years at Nike and all the boardroom and executive drama going on inside this company. Instead of transforming the sneaker giant into a high-tech powerhouse, CEO John Donahoe pissed off partners and disappointed fans. So please go to Bloomberg.com and check that out.
I share your stories all the time, Kim. I do. I really do. Whenever you write a new one, I'm like, this is fucking cool, and I send it to my friends. So
is it the plot line for Air 2?
Ooh. You would like that. I would like that.
You would like that.
Walt, in your newsletter tomorrow, are we going to get an update on the in bold $9.95 confirmed fraud of our beloved Movie Pass?
Yes, you actually. I wrote that before this.
Hell yeah. Well, what would you like to plug?
I would like to plug. I recently read an article on the internet called "The Man Who Made Nike Uncool." The past 5 years at Nike, and basically, instead of transforming the sneaker giant into a high-tech powerhouse, John Donahoe pissed off partners with fans. You can find that at Bloomberg Business Week.
Oh wow, I heard about that.
Yeah, I heard about it through Numlock News, a newsletter that you should subscribe to.
For all your latest Carthage news.
You gotta get some Carthage. Nike and Carthage.
Nike and Carthage.
Your whole newsletter, just Nike and Carthage. Nike and Carthage. Imagine how good it would have been in some modern Nike sneakers.
That's the thing. The Vaporflies, I think, make the runners too good.
Right? Yeah, the Alpha Flies, like the marathon runner ones. Yeah. Hannibal just straight through the Pyrenees.
The marathon runner at marathon wouldn't have fucking died after 26 miles if they had the Alpha Flies.
That's what Romans did.
I don't think that was a Roman battle.
Greek.
That was a Greek battle.
That was a Greek battle.
Historically, who had the best crossing of the Pyrenees?
Yes.
You think it's Carthage? Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's got to be. It's like Napoleon. Don't want to
Napoleon's a pretty big one.
Between 1938 and 1941.
Probably any plane that goes over France now.
Yes.
Oh, come on. That's a cheap one. But I mean,
that's
a really
Qatar
good debate.
Airways 877. That's the current winner. So.
Our next episode is Willow, our final movie, this lap from the 80s cult movie lap, Willow from 1988, doing that next week. I also want to give a shout out to Josh and Michael for picking that movie and sponsoring the entire lap, and all of our patrons, Cassie Wilson, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleiman. Our guest tonight, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Wes Hampton, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke, Hayden, Renato DiDonato, Michael McGann, Lane Middleton, Lindsay Lewandowski, Nate Milton of the Kings of Sport, Jason Rainey, Tom Price, Mike Gallagher, Josh Buckley of Whole Lot of Wolves, Michael Moser, Christian Larson, Tara Newman, Aaron Willows, and Natalie Absolute, Randy Carter, Josh Goularm, and Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Thank you all for sponsoring the $5 a month level or above. We got more bonus episodes coming up this month on the Patreon. All of Brian's smutty picks behind the paywall, forever only available at toofast2forever.com to our patrons. Even $1 a month gets you in the door. Thank you all for listening. Thank you once again to Walt, Kim, and Brian for joining us tonight. And for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/toofast2forever, or at toofast2forever on all the socials. Email us, family@cageclub.me. We'll read on the next Life in Fastlane episode. Check out our Patreon page at toofast2forever.com and our store at cageclub.me/shop. And come back next week, as I mentioned, for Willow. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
That was Walt, Hickey, Kim Bhasin, and Brian Rodriguez, and we will tell you all about it
when we see you again.
The Duke of Wellington, underrated crossing of the Pyrenees.